Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle, and in this video I want to show you my Agatha Christie collection. I have managed to collect all of her books, and I have not been able to collect them in any specific edition, and actually I haven't wanted to. I've been quite happy to just pick them up as I find them, which means I have a lot of different editions of Agatha Christie books. So for this video, I thought it would be fun to show you my collection by edition, by decade, because I also think it's interesting to see how covers change over the decades. And so I'm going to start with my most recent editions and work backwards. So this first one is the only edition that I have from the 2010s, and this is Three Blind Mice and Other Stories. This is a William Morrow edition. Now, these are quite popular editions, and I can understand why. They are really well done. I really like how they look, but this is the only one that I have of those editions. Because, and I think it's because most of the other Agatha Christie's that I have, I've picked up here and there at book sales or in thrift stores. But I knew I wanted to collect all of them, and it had come down to just needing this one book, and so I just bought it, off of at Indigo or at Amazon or something like that, which is why it's a more recent edition. Okay, so let's move from the 2010s to the 2000s. And again, I only have one book to show you from that decade, and it is Spider's Web. Now, this isn't technically Agatha Christie. This is has been adapted as a novel by Charles Osborne, but I'm putting it in here because I would like to collect her plays as well. So this was a play that she wrote that was later adapted as a novel by Charles Osborne. And so until I have the play, I'll just show the edition that I have as a novel. So that is from the 2000s. Now we're going to move into the 90s. I have a few. As we move along, you're going to see I have the bulk of my editions are from the 70s and from the 80s. So, the editions that I have from the 90s. I have two from the Berkeley line, and this is the ABC Murders and Towards Zero. Now, it's interesting, these must be from different times in the decade because these look like very different editions. This one here is from 1992, so it's early in the decade. And then my other one, Towards Zero, is from, I'm going to say from later on in the decade. Oh, that's interesting. It's from 1991 as well. So I have no idea why they look so different. That's very interesting though, isn't it? All right, and then I have, this is a St. Martin's paperback, and this is another example of a play of Agatha Christie's that has been turned into a novel by Charles Osborne. This is Black Coffee. And then I have a Fontana edition of Hickory Dickory Dock, and I have a number of them from this with this style of the black line across the top saying the Christie Collection. I have a few of those, but you're going to see them coming up next in the 80s. I think this was maybe one of the last that they did. You can see in the front cover they show you here the Christie Collection, and there's a nice picture of her in the front. I like these editions actually. And this is from 1990. And then I have a few hardcover editions from the 90s. This is the Harlequin tea set and other stories, which I believe is an American collection. So this one has The Edge, The Actress, While the Light Lasts, The House of Dreams, The Lonely God, Manx Gold, Within a Wall, The Mystery of the Spanish Chest, and the Harlequin tea set. And then I have The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. I like this cover with the open book and the glasses and the timepiece. It's classic. This is a Putnam edition. And then I have also, this is a facsimile edition of While the Light Lasts, which did come out in the 90s. A brand new collection of unpublished stories by the Queen of Crime. So I really like these facsimile editions. I think they're really nice. I'm going to open it up for you so that you can see the cover. It's just plain red, but it's still nice. And yes, this edition came out in 1997. The stories in here: The House of Dreams, The Actress, The Edge, A Christmas Adventure, The Lonely God, Manx Gold, Within a Wall, The Mystery of the Baghdad Chest, and While the Light Lasts. So there's some similarities between this one and the Harlequin tea set edition. This is the UK edition collection, and the other one is the American one, and there are some slight differences. And then last but not least, I have another example of a play that was adapted into a novel by Charles Osborne, and this is The Unexpected Guest. And that is all I have from the 90s. So moving on, now I'm going to show you my collection of editions from the 80s. I have a number of different publishers here, and I only have 2 that are hardcover, so we're going to start with those. And this is the Agatha Christie Hour. This is published by Collins. And this is a collection of short stories. And then I only have one from this particular edition. This is the Agatha Christie Mystery Collection by Bantam Books. And this particular one is Poirot Loses a Client. These have nice end papers here. And then let's move on to the ones that I have in the Berkeley edition. I have Cards on the Table, The Boomerang Clue, The Murder at the Vicarage, The Patriotic Murders, also published as An Overdose of Death, originally published as 1-2 Buckle My Shoe. And then interestingly enough, the cover design changes completely for this, and this is Five Little Pigs, also known as Murder in Retrospect. So I find that interesting that the covers are entirely different to these ones. So I have 4 of them like that. And then they change completely again, and I have 3 of this style, And this is Agatha Christie 100th Anniversary Edition of Double Sin and Other Stories. So this is another short story collection. What I like about these is they're all the same, but they have different colors. So this one is purple, and then we have the Big Four, which is pink, and Mr. Parker Pine Detective in blue. And so I think it would be cool if I could find a few more in this edition. I think that's cool. But these, so far, these were all Berkeley editions. Okay, and then I have one Bantam book, and this is The Mousetrap and Other Plays. These are the only plays of hers that I have so far. And as you can tell, this is an old library copy. But I was happy to find it. So this one has The Mousetrap, the play The Mousetrap. It also has, And Then There Were None, Appointment with Death, The Hollow, The Mousetrap, Witness for the Prosecution, Towards Zero, Verdict, and Go Back for Murder. And then I have 3 pocketbook editions to show you. I have Crooked House, The Mystery of the Blue Train, and The Pale Horse. And then by far, the edition that I have the most of from the 80s are Fontana editions. And what's interesting here is these, again, go through a change in style. Oh, actually, I have 3 Dells. Sorry, I have Murder at Hazelmoor, which is also the Sittaford mystery. I quite like the style of these editions too. The Mysterious Mr. Quinn, and N or M. So these are Dell mysteries. Okay, and then the Fontana books that I have, they go through a change in style as well. And so these first ones are from earlier in the 80s. And these are, you can tell, because in these editions, the little Fontana logo is here up at the top. In later editions, it moves to the center. So I have Cat Among the Pigeons, Lord Edgware Dies, The Hollow, $4.50 from Paddington. And I do like these Fontana editions, although I'm not entirely sure what this is. Is this a plant growing up on the train tracks? I'm not entirely sure. The Mirror Cracked from Side to Side. Ordeal by Innocence. I like this cover, actually. I think it's very clever. The black sheep behind bars there on the cover. Very clever. And Sleeping Murder. The Clocks. and at Bertram's Hotel. These are the ones from early in the 80s. So you can see there's a definite similarity in style here in covers. Okay, now I'm going to show you the ones that I have that are from a little bit later in that same decade. Okay, so here you can see the Fontana logo got moved to the center of the front cover. This is Curtain, Poirot's Last Case. A Pocket Full of Rye. They Came to Baghdad. Passenger to Frankfurt. So again, there is nice continuity in the design of these covers. And then I have two more that are also Fontana, but they are, I think, from a special collection. And so I have A Murder is Announced and Dead Man's Folly. And they've got this banner across the top saying the Christie Collection. Now these are the ones that have the great end papers. So there's the photograph of Agatha Christie here, and then all the books that they have in this edition. So I think that's a nice part of this particular edition. Okay, and so those are the books that I have from the 80s. Okay, so these are the books that I have from the 70s. I've got 4 that are hardcover from this decade. This is the Postern of Fate. This is a nice hard copy edition, and the publisher is the Companion Book Club, London and Sydney, and that's the only book in that edition that I have. I also have I've got a few from this edition, but the other ones are companion ones like quiz books and other books about Agatha Christie and her works rather than by Agatha Christie. But this one is The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding and The Hound of Death. I like these editions too. These are nice hardcover editions. So they've got nice end papers. They also have some illustrations. These are Heron books. So you can see here they've got some illustrations. And they've also got this nice bookmark. Okay, and then I have this 13 Problems. I don't have the dust jacket for this edition. It's got the nice Agatha Christie signature there, however, and across the spine, you can see there. This was a library copy also. This is a Dodd Mead and Company edition, the Greenway edition of 13 Problems, originally published as the Tuesday Club Murders. And then the last hardcover that I have is this one here, Miss Marple's 6 Final Cases and 2 other stories. So this is also a library copy, Collins Crime Club edition. Okay, Then I have a number of Bantam books, but first I have one that is, it is Panther. So this is The Secret Adversary. And that's the only one that I have as a Panther edition. Then I have a few Bantam editions. I have Poirot Investigates. And The Seven Dials Mystery. These two are obviously from the same. I like that though. I like the layout. And then this is also from the 70s, and it's also Bantam, but this is a movie tie-in cover for Death on the Nile. And so you can see here are the actors from the movie that came out in the 70s for Death on the Nile. Here's a better picture of the actors. And then I also have, and I don't know why this one looks so different from the other ones, because this is also a Bantam from the 70s, but this is A Holiday for Murder, also published as Murder for Christmas. Okay, and then I have a good number of the Fontana editions. And again, they change where they put their logo, which I find fascinating, and I don't understand all the ins and outs of that. But we have Elephants Can Remember, and in this case, the logo has moved down here to the bottom corner, which I find interesting. This is one where the cover art is by Tom Adams. Tom Adams' cover art is pretty famous in Agatha Christie books, and so this is one of his. And then there is this edition where it's back over here on the top, but on the other side from before, so that's unusual. This is Poirot's Early Cases. Another short story collection. And then interestingly enough, there are a couple more where the logo is on that same corner, but it is larger and it looks different. I'm going to show you this because I think this is interesting. The logo here is smaller and it's different. It's outlined in black and the top bit is black, whereas on this one it's not outlined in black anymore and the top bit is white. So I find that interesting. But this is By the Pricking of My Thumbs. This is another Tom Adams cover art. And Endless Night. Again, Tom Adams. I think you can start to tell when you see a number of Tom Adams cover works together. You can start to pick up on which ones are his. And then I've got a few where it's back here in the center. So I don't know, I find that so fascinating. If anybody knows what that's about, like kind of how those decisions are made, let me know in the comments because I find that so interesting. This is another Tom Adams. And then Taken at the Flood. And who wants to take a guess? This is another Tom Adams artwork. Right? Yeah, you can totally tell. Tom Adams. And then another one that is still Fontana from the 70s, but a very different look. This is Nemesis. It's back in the center. Okay, and then I have a few pocketbook editions. It's another movie tie-in cover of And Then There Were None. Tell it's a movie tie-in cover, now a major motion picture, and it actually says at the bottom, formerly entitled And Then There Were None. So the movie must have been called 10 Little Indians, which isn't great, but that's what it was. Okay, and then I also have The Body in the Library. Peril at End House. Remembered Death, also originally published as Sparkling Cyanide. And then I have a few Dell editions. This is Murder in Mesopotamia. I quite like these Dell editions, and honestly, the earlier the Dell editions, the better, frankly. But even these ones from the 70s aren't bad. I like that it's green, like that. Dead Man's Mirror. Now this is the American edition of Murder in the Mews, and it only has the 3 stories. They didn't choose to put the 4th one in, which is interesting. The Moving Finger. The Golden Ball and Other Stories. "13 for Luck." Again, this is another American short story collection. "Appointment with Death." "Sad Cypress." "The Regatta Mystery." Again, another short story collection. And then last but not least, The Secret of Chimneys. So I like these Dell editions. I'm going to put a few out so you can see. I always think it's interesting to look at them in a grouping. So those are my Dell editions from the 70s. Okay, let's move on to the 60s. Now, the 70s and the 80s were definitely the largest decade for me for the books that I have, but I do have a few from the 60s. Halloween Party. This is in pretty rough shape, but I'm okay with that. This is a Dodd Meads edition. There's her. She dedicated this one to P.G. Wodehouse, which is awesome. All right, and then I have The Third Girl. I do not have the dust jacket for this. but this is another Dodd Meads edition. And then finally in the hardcovers, this is A Caribbean Mystery. Again in some rough shape, but another Dodd Meads edition. I like the the green cover there. Okay, and then I have a few paperbacks as well. Okay, this is a Poplar edition of Murder in 3 Acts, originally published as 3-Act Tragedy, I believe. And then I only have one copy of a Fontana edition from the 60s, and this is Mrs. McGinty's Dead. And then I have 2 pocketbook editions from the 60s, and they are very different, which I find fascinating. So I have Evil Under the Sun and Easy to Kill. Now, Evil Under the Sun is from 63, and then Easy to Kill is from 67. So it's interesting because even the size of them is very different. So this is Evil Under the Sun. I love this edition. I think this is fantastic. The silver spine of these editions. So you can tell here, because this is early 60s, so we're really getting into an era of cover design that I really like. I really like the 30s, 40s, 50s, and then early 60s cover editions for sure. And then this is also a pocketbook from later in the 60s. Easy to Kill, originally titled Murder is Easy. And then I have a few Dell as well. And again, I have 4 of them, and they're very different. So these 2, I'm going to guess, are from later in the 60s. So this is 67 and this is 69. So it's Partners in Crime and The Underdog and Other Stories. Again, these are fine, but you're going to see right away here, the next 2 that I show you that are from earlier in the 60s are definitely my favorites. These 2. So again, they're the smaller size. And this was The Man in the Brown Suit from 62. And Poirot Loses a Client from 65. I really like these editions. And Poirot Loses a Client. And those are what I have from the 60s. I have a few from the 50s. We're getting to the end here, I promise. So from the 50s, I have 7 from the 50s. Interestingly enough, they are all different editions. So first I want to show you this, the only hardcover that I have from the 50s. And I love this. This is After the Funeral. And then I have a White Circle Crime Club edition of Death in the Clouds. I love that I have this edition. I would love to find more of these Crime Club editions. Here's a cool ad on the back. And then I have a Fontana Books edition of They Do It With Mirrors. Oh no, it's Collins. Fontana Books, Collins. Hang on. Oh, that's interesting. It's both. And I have a Dell edition of Witness for the Prosecution and other short stories. And then I have a pocketbook edition of So Many Steps to Death, originally titled Destination Unknown. And then this great edition here, this is a Cardinal edition of Death Comes as the End, which is her historical mystery that takes place in ancient Egypt. You can see there's her signature there. And then this is a Great Pan edition of The Mysterious Affair at Styles with a picture of Poirot. And I know Agatha Christie didn't like having pictures of Poirot on her covers, but they got away with this one. Okay, and then I have one from the 40s, but I am super excited about this one because it is a Dell Map Back edition, and I would love to find more of the Map Back editions. This is The Labors of Hercules. These are fantastic. Love this here, complete and unabridged. It's a great picture. And then the back, and this is why they're so famous, they have these great maps at the back. Ireland, London, Paris, Switzerland, England, Pisa, Lake Geneva, France. I absolutely love these map back editions. I think they're so cool. And that's all I have from the 40s. I have two from the 30s. I have a copy of Murder on the Orient Express. This is a Crime Club edition. So I have just the two, and I would love to get more of these. Also, I think these are great editions, these white circle editions. And then I have a facsimile copy, and I've put it here because even though it was published recently, it's a facsimile edition of what the 30s cover looked like, so I'm counting it here. This is Murder in the Mews, 4 Poirot stories. So this is the one, the UK edition, that has the 4 stories in it, and the American edition only had the 3 that I showed you earlier. So this is what the original cover looked like. I love these editions. These hardcover Crime Club editions. And that's it. There you have it. That is my Agatha Christie collection. I'm amazed if you stayed through this whole thing. It turned out to be a bit longer than I anticipated, but I'm happy to show you my collection of Agatha Christie books. Do you have a favorite edition? Do you collect? Do you try to collect all of one edition or not? Or like me, do you like to have a hodgepodge of all kinds of different editions? I would love to chat with you about that or anything else in the comment section down below. And I will see you for another video soon. Bye.